Collecting video games is obviously something I like to do, and it gets very expensive. A lot of retro games are now commanding very high price tags, and a lot of these games are actually still good games, even though they're way overpriced. A game like Felix the Cat is a $60 NES game, but it's still a very good game. Look at Metal Storm on the NES. Once again, about $120, $130. Still an excellent game. When you look at the Sega Saturn, tons of expensive games, but tons of great games. Games like Dragon Force, Shining Force 3, Panzer Dragoon Saga, which is a $600 plus game. It's still a great game at the end of the day. It doesn't matter that it has a really high, stupid price tag. But then on the other side of the collecting spectrum are the expensive games that are just terrible, just the bottom of the barrel. And it's like, why do these games cost so much? I don't want to buy this game, but if I want to complete a collection or add something to my collection, I'm supposed to. Because as collectors, we're insane and crazy, and we spend money on things that aren't worth the value, and they're terrible. So in today's video, we're going to look at the most expensive retro video games that suck. The worst of the worst that have the highest price tags. Now, the only thing I'm taking into consideration with this video is the game must be an official release. So something like Action 52, Bubble Bath Babes, you're not going to see it on this list. Everything else is good, fair game, and it goes in this video. So we're going to cover a bunch of different systems, a bunch of different games, and we're going to look at expensive retro games that suck. So the first game we're going to talk about is a game that I actually own. I actually paid a lot of money for this game, and I instantly regretted it, but hey, I wanted to complete my 32X collection because I'm just some weirdo who wants a complete 32X collection. And this was one of the final games I needed. So at Too Many Games 2016, I became the proud owner of The Amazing Spider-Man Web of Fire for the 32X. Now this game sucks. It's not a good game. It's kind of like a $10 Sega Genesis Spider-Man game that you would see. There's nothing about this game that really says, hey, this is 32-bit. It could have easily been done on the Genesis. Could have easily been done on the Sega CD. Actually, The Amazing Spider-Man vs. the Kingpin is a better Spider-Man game on the Sega CD than this 32X game. Nothing about it says next generation. Nothing about it says advanced processing power. So why is this game considered expensive? Well, it was the last North American release for the 32X. There's a rumor that only about 1,700 copies exist in the wild. So how much did I pay for this piece of crap? $300! I paid $300 freaking dollars for this thing, and I regret it. I hate myself. I lie awake at night thinking what I could do with that $300, but I needed it to complete my 32X collection, and now I have The Amazing Spider-Man Web of Fire. This is by far the most I've ever spent on a video game. This will be the most I ever spend on a video game, and yeah, the game is terrible. Don't ever buy it. Just emulate it. Play it any way you can. Just don't buy it if you're just morbidly interested in this game, because it's not good. It's not good. Moving on, we're going to talk about another system with a very small library, and I actually considered going for a complete set of this instead of the 32X. I don't know why I wanted a complete set of something, but it seems like every collector has a complete set of something. Most people go for the N64. No, too many games. I'm not spending all that money. 32X was where it was at, but I could have easily gone with this system, the Virtual Boy. Now, stop laughing. Stop laughing. The Virtual Boy has some really good games on it. Games like Wario Land, games like Mario Tennis, Tellero Boxer. These were solid games, and considering the paltry lineup of Virtual Boy games, it's really impressive that there was actually good games within that, 14 games that released in North America for the system. But the last game that released for the Virtual Boy is just an absolute stinker. You remember that movie Waterworld that had Kevin Costner drinking his pee? That's all I remember from that video, was that Kevin Costner literally drank his pee in this movie, and there was like a world covered in water. Well, they made a Virtual Boy game about that, and it was, once again, the last game released on North American soil for the Virtual Boy. And Waterworld, I don't even know how to explain the game. Like, I don't know what's going on. The water is black, everything is red, there's like shooting stuff, and there's people like waving their arms in the water. It's a bizarre game. It's terrible, absolute bottom of the barrel, yet it's a nearly $100 game. And that's just crazy. That's a loose price for the game as well. So if you want it in a nice fancy box, you're gonna pay about double that. Waterworld, another craptastic game that just does not deserve this high price tag, and I hate it. I hate it. Moving on, let's talk about a company that I love, Sega. Let's talk about Sega, baby. Let's talk about you and me. I love Sega products, and the Master System was a system that I definitely missed out on when it first came out, but it's something I'm trying to get into as I go along with my video game collecting, because I really like the library of games. It's a really unique system. So many games that came out on the NES that also released on the Master System were just better on the Master System, like Double Dragon. Double Dragon on the Master System blew my mind. But one of the most expensive games on the Master System is just a craptastic game, and that's James Buster Douglas Boxing. Now, James Buster Douglas was the man that took out Iron Mike Tyson, so it was kind of poetic justice, because Sega was trying to take out Nintendo all the time, and you had Mike Tyson's Punch-Out on the NES, and now you had James Buster Douglas on the Sega Master System. But no, Mike Tyson's Punch-Out was leagues better than James Buster Douglas Boxing. Just a craptastic game. There's nothing really good about it. I guess the sprites were nice and big, but the actual gameplay was terrible. It was just a boring mess of a boxing game. But of course, like a lot of these games, it was a late release on the Sega Master System. So how much is this boxing gem gonna cost you? About $200 loose, much more if you're going for a complete in-box one. About double that, you know, $400 to $500. Absolute insanity for a terrible boxing game. Like, buy it. Freaking Greatest Heavyweights on the Genesis. That's light years better. It's like $10. Stop buying these expensive games just because they're expensive. It's stupid. It's stupid. Remember this? Remember Spider-Man? Let's go back to Spider-Man. Stupid. Terrible investment. I regret it every day. James Buster Douglas, I would regret it even more, because at least you could play a little bit of Spider-Man. James Buster Douglas, you just put it on your shelf and you just look at it and you're like, oh, look, I got James Buster Douglas. No. No. The next game we're going to talk about is Darkwing Duck. When there's trouble, you call DW. Darkwing Duck. Let's get dangerous. I don't know why I'm singing so much in this video. I think I had a little too much caffeine. Anyways, Darkwing Duck released on the NES, and it was a kick-ass game. It's one of my favorite games on the platform. If you like Mega Man and you like Darkwing Duck, this game is right up your alley. It's a fantastic game, and only 40 bucks, which, you know, a little expensive, but hey, it's a worthwhile game in my opinion. So you would think with something like, I don't know, the TurboGrafx 16, which is way more powerful than the NES, had an excellent version of Street Fighter 2 on it, you would think that, hey, this version of Darkwing Duck would be so much better, right? And you would think that. It would make sense in your mind. It would have better animations, better sound, and better level design and whatnot. But no, this is like 10 steps back from the NES one. I don't even know what's going on here. I can never advance in this game whatsoever because the difficulty is just so insane. Nothing seems to work. The controls are just so delayed and whatnot. I'm sure you've seen the Angry Video Game Nerd talk about this game, but it's just insanity how bad this ended up being when it could have been and should have been much better than the NES version. You know, kind of like how Master System games were arguably better than NES versions of the game. TurboGrafx 16 should have been way better. But no, we somehow messed up Darkwing Duck, a freaking awesome franchise and a great cartoon, and we just butchered it. So how much will Darkwing Duck set you back? If the NES version is only $40, this terrible version must cost less, right? No. No, it doesn't. You know how much a loose copy of Darkwing Duck is going to cost you on the TurboGrafx 16? $140 for a game you can't even play because it doesn't work right, and the controls are just disgusting and don't work. And it's like when you unplug your controller and then give it to your cousin to be player 2, and you're like, hey, look, you're playing the game, but she's not really playing the game. I told you, Natasha, I did it to you all the time. You deserved it. You didn't need to play my video games. Ah, The Legend of Zelda. Such a great and beloved franchise. So many awesome games. Just games that are just memorable, timeless classics that you just never could forget about. Like, they're so good and they're so much fun, so much replay value. They hold up so well over time. And although some of the games are better than others in the series, you can pretty much say that most Zelda games were good or even great or fantastic. But I emphasize the keyword most because back in the day, Nintendo had decided to link up with Philips and do games on the CDI instead of going the route with Sony and working on the Super Nintendo PlayStation or the Super Nintendo CD. Of course, there is a prototype of this now floating out in the wild. But for some reason, Nintendo decided to license out two of their most popular IPs with Mario and Zelda. There were 2 Zelda games on the CDI and 1 Mario game. Hotel Mario was okay, but somehow we got 2 Zelda games, and one of the Zelda games actually had you play as Zelda. So that has the potential to be pretty cool, you would think, right? Zelda's Adventure released on the CDI, and these people don't know how to make video games. Philips has no idea what they're doing here. The Nintendo was just like, here, do something with this. And they're like, okay. And they just I don't know what they did here, but it's terrible. It is an abomination. There's no redeeming factors in this. The music is terrible. The voice acting is terrible. The cutscenes are terrible. The graphics are terrible. The hit detection is terrible. The controls are terrible. Everything about it is literally terrible. But it's so terrible. The worst heinous act of this game, it is $500 loose just for the CD. You don't even get a jewel case with that. You might get a common jewel case. You're not getting any instruction books. You're not getting any artwork or anything. $500 for this game. Insanity, insanity. Burn it at the stake. It's a witch, burn it at the stake. Like I said earlier, the N64 is a very popular system to go for a complete collection for. There's only over 200 games for the system released in North America, so a lot of people go for that. Most of them are pretty cheap as well. And the heavy hitters on the system are, you got stuff like Clay Fighter Sculptor's Cut, which was a Blockbuster exclusive. That is arguably the most expensive game on the system. It's not good, it's not bad, it's kind of bleh. But there's a game on the N64 that's just stupid. Do you like Super? Do you like bowling? Do you like Super Bowling 64? Like, that's the most cliche name ever. It's like, everything on the Super Nintendo was Super, everything on the N64 was 64, and this company was just like, yo, let's just combine it to Super Bowling 64. That'll make people want to buy this game. I don't know anything about this game, but it's bowling. It's literally bowling. It's not even Nestor's Funky Bowling, it's just bowling. And you know how much this game costs? $140 for a bowling game. You could like get into a bowling league and get like your own custom bowling ball, your own custom bowling shoes for less money than it costs for this game. And I recommend that because bowling can be kind of fun. The final game I want to talk about in this video is arguably the most expensive video game there is that's officially licensed. And, there's a history behind it. It was a limited release, and it used to be, everyone had one. It was like a couple bucks at Funko Land, but as time went on, all of these just seemed to sort of disappear, and now it's one of the most expensive video games ever. And that is the legendary stadium events. Do you like track and field? Do you want to use a little pad for the NES? Then Stadium Events is your game, man. It's like track and field, but it's Stadium Events. It's made by a different company. That makes it cool, right? And the price of Stadium Events is just astronomical. $10,000! $10,000! Do you know what you could do with $10,000? You could put a down payment on a house. You could buy a decent used car. You could buy like 4 jet skis and like a hooker. Like, you could do so much with $400 or $10,000. It's just absolute insanity that people pay this much money for this game. But you know what the worst part of it is? I know people in real life that have this game. I know people that are that sick in the head that said to themselves, I need this game to complete my NES collection. I'm gonna pay an astronomical amount of money. I know some people that have multiple copies of this game. What is wrong with you? What is wrong with us? Why are we spending hundreds of dollars on crap, on games that suck? We just put them on our shelves. We never even play them. We have to collect them. We have to collect them. It's so much fun to collect games. So we spend all this money on games that are terrible when we could be spending hundreds of dollars on meaningful things and to advance in life. But no, we're man children and we can't get out of this funk, and we're just like, yes, video games, we gotta buy all these expensive video games. This is nuts. I'm done.
RGT NA5, RGT NA5. RGT